Laughter reverberated through the luminous glass walls of the automotive showroom, cascading across the polished marble floors and pristine vehicles as if the establishment itself had joined the cruel jest. 3 impeccably attired figures, 2 young gentlemen in custom-tailored suits and a woman draped in an elegant obsidian dress, clustered together, their mocking laughter piercing the air while their accusatory fingers gestured with malicious intent. Their victim stood before them, a fragile elderly man dressed in mended garments, a worn canvas sack draped across his shoulder and a sun-weathered hat crowning his head. His shirt bore visible tears, crudely repaired with mismatched fabric patches that testified to grueling days beneath the scorching sun and endless nights of backbreaking toil. His footwear showed signs of extensive wear, while his hands displayed the roughened texture that comes from decades of working the earth. He remained motionless, his expression inscrutable, absorbing the derision that seemed to penetrate deeper than any physical wound. Before we continue further, allow me to interject briefly. If you hold faith in compassion, believe in second opportunities, and understand that genuine value extends far beyond superficial appearances, then please engage by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing to Untold Stories 0.4. Your participation helps disseminate tales of empathy that our world urgently requires. The elderly gentleman was known as Ezekiel Turner, an agriculturalist who had devoted every fragment of his prime years to cultivating the soil. Throughout countless decades, Ezekiel labored in the fields surrounding the modest community where he resided, his existence governed by nature's cyclical patterns. Regardless of weather conditions, he emerged at daybreak, tilling, sowing, and reaping. His attire frequently displayed evidence of his occupation: perspiration, soil, and tears accumulated through years of kneeling among his crops. He couldn't afford the privilege of fine fabrics or lustrous leather shoes. His prosperity was calculated in bushels of harvested grain and the modest produce he marketed at neighborhood bazaars. Yet Ezekiel possessed something most individuals failed to recognize: foresight. Concealed beneath his modest appearance resided a man who watched intently, listened attentively, and harbored aspirations greater than his circumstances. He observed how agricultural workers like himself frequently faced mistreatment upon entering town, evaluated solely by their clothing, speech patterns, and absence of refinement. He recalled visiting financial institutions where employees regarded him with contempt, entering retail establishments where staff members deliberately overlooked his presence. And presently, positioned within the showroom where ridicule descended upon him like a violent storm, he experienced anew the sharp pain of contempt reserved for those society considered inferior. What the mocking assembly failed to comprehend was that Ezekiel had been orchestrating this precise moment for countless years. He had preserved every cent, every piece of currency that agricultural work provided him. He maintained a modest lifestyle, consumed simple meals, and made prudent investments in property that others disregarded. While people ridiculed him for his perceived poverty, Ezekiel systematically acquired small farming plots, one transaction at a time. Seasons progressed, his harvests thrived, and although his clothing remained threadbare, his financial resources accumulated in silence. Nevertheless, no one perceived this transformation. They observed only the repairs, the sack, the battered hat. They witnessed the exterior and dismissed the individual within. On that particular day within the dealership, as mockery resonated around him, Ezekiel's thoughts drifted to the hardships he had weathered. He recalled losing his beloved spouse years prior to disease when he lacked the means to secure premier medical care. He remembered maintaining vigil at her bedside, clasping her hand as she murmured, "Give me your word, Zeke. Promise me you'll transcend these circumstances. Don't allow them to destroy your spirit." He reminisced about his offspring departing the community in pursuit of better prospects, occasionally feeling ashamed of their father's disheveled appearance, oblivious to the enterprise he was methodically constructing. He remembered evenings when he retired without sustenance, choosing instead to allocate resources toward seeds, equipment, or additional acreage. Each sacrifice served as a cornerstone in the foundation of a future he had long envisioned. Currently, positioned beneath the harsh illumination of the showroom, subjected to ridicule for nothing beyond his appearance, Ezekiel recognized the moment had arrived. He refrained from elevating his voice or responding with harsh words. He simply maintained his stance, his quietude more powerful than any verbal defense. When the laughter eventually diminished, and the sales supervisor approached him with poorly concealed scorn, Ezekiel politely requested an audience with the proprietor. Initially, his appeal was dismissed casually. "Gentlemen, these vehicles might exceed your financial capacity. the supervisor remarked with a condescending expression. However, Ezekiel remained persistent, composed and resolute, until eventually the establishment's director materialized. Attired in an immaculate charcoal suit, the man offered a practiced smile, prepared to dismiss another patron he presumed possessed limited purchasing power. Yet the moment Ezekiel presented the documentation, the entire atmosphere within the space transformed dramatically. The elderly farmer had not come to purchase a vehicle. He had arrived to acquire the entire dealership. The legal papers verified what no one had anticipated. Ezekiel Turner had amassed sufficient capital not merely to purchase the showroom, but also to secure its personnel, operations, and planned expansions. The laughter that had previously permeated the air was supplanted by profound silence. The very individuals who had mocked him now stood paralyzed, their faces drained of all amusement, their pointing gestures lowered in mortification. Ezekiel chose not to celebrate triumphantly. He refrained from returning their mockery. Instead, he addressed them with serene dignity and declared, "A person's value is not inscribed upon his garments. It is inscribed within his soul, his labor, and his treatment of fellow human beings." The instance was dramatic, eternally memorable. News traveled swiftly throughout the community regarding the modest farmer who had purchased the automotive dealership. The identical people who had ridiculed him now spoke his name with reverence. Those who had previously ignored his presence now acknowledged him with genuine admiration. Yet Ezekiel remained unchanged, unpretentious, benevolent, and humble. He continued donning his patched garments and straw headwear, serving as a living testament that appearances never reveal the complete narrative. For Ezekiel, the acquisition wasn't motivated by vengeance. It wasn't intended to humiliate those who had derided him. It was designed to demonstrate to the world, and perhaps remind himself, that patience, diligent effort, and modesty possess far greater strength than cruelty or pride. His narrative became a wellspring of motivation for both young and elderly. Agricultural workers throughout the region felt pride in their heritage, understanding that dignity wasn't measured by textiles or trends, but by integrity and determination. Parents shared Ezekiel's journey with their children, instructing them never to evaluate others based on appearances and never to underestimate the strength of resilience. Consequently, the dealership that had once ridiculed a farmer in ragged clothing now functioned as a symbol of transformation, an establishment where Ezekiel extended equal respect to every patron, whether they wore pristine suits or deteriorated footwear. His staff received training not merely to market automobiles, but to serve with genuine kindness, ensuring that no individual would ever again experience the sting of ridicule within those premises. If this narrative has moved your heart, I extend an invitation for you to like, share, and subscribe to Untold Stories 0.4 immediately. These stories transcend mere entertainment. They serve as reminders of the goodness we can embrace daily. Your participation helps distribute hope and motivates others to act with compassion. Before we conclude, I wish to request something meaningful. Please share in the comments below. Have you ever faced unfair judgment based on your appearance, and how did you overcome it? Your experiences might provide strength to someone who requires it today. Ezekiel Turner's story will forever remind us of one profound truth. The world may ridicule you, undervalue you, and dismiss you based on external appearances. However, your worth is not woven into your clothing or quantified by others' laughter. It is constructed daily through your perseverance, your compassion, and your determination not to allow bitterness to flourish. And occasionally, as Ezekiel demonstrated, the very obstacles that others place before you can become the foundation of a legacy that silences mockery permanently.